Good afternoon. We're going to allow about a minute or so for everyone to kind of get logged in. But while we're waiting, let's go over a few of some housekeeping items. So my name's Alicia Moore. I am the Chief Customer Experience Officer here at the Council, and assisting me on today's webinar is going to be Bethany Washington. Bethany's our product sales specialist. Do want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your lunch break to kind of learn about the Volunteer Toolkit, specifically the Finance tab. So this is a new feature for us this year, and we're really excited about it. So let's see, make sure that everybody's kind of getting logged in. All right, so while everybody's getting logged in, kind of wanted to go over some things. Bethany's going to actually be taking questions in the questions log. So the way in which you ask the question is you click on the chat button, and then you can type in whatever question you want. We'll be taking questions periodically throughout the presentation. So post your questions there. I also want you to be mindful of the handouts tab. So there's some really good information there. We have Chapter 5 of the Volunteer Essentials, which is going to be a pretty big resource as it relates to our topic today. But we also have some information from the last webinar that we did on the Volunteer Toolkit last month. So if you weren't able to catch that webinar, you can download these resources, and you can also catch that webinar on our YouTube channel. Today's webinar will actually be recorded as well, so just be mindful of that, and you'll get a link to that presentation once this webinar is over. So be mindful of that as well too. The other thing is, as I said, if you make sure that you can hear us. If you can't, you can actually comment in the chat log as well. So we're going to get started. I like to get started with a little bit of a poll. So this webinar was actually designed for new leaders, but we also know that we have some more experienced leaders on the call today as well. But today's topic is the Volunteer Toolkit. So I kind of just wanted to know, have you guys actually logged into the Volunteer Toolkit? So the poll should be open now. If you can just start answering that question, so we can kind of get a gauge on if you guys are familiar with everything. So we'll go about 15 more seconds, allow everybody to answer that poll. All right. Looks like a good bit of you have already voted. I am going to close it out. All right, so it seems like you guys can see it, that a lot of you, 80% of you, have already said that you have got into the Volunteer Toolkit, so that's a really good thing. For those of you who haven't, we'll kind of go briefly over it, but like I said, you also have that resource of our webinar, our previous webinar that goes over it on our YouTube channel. So don't forget to also download the handout, so it'll kind of give you an explanation of that as well. So, all right, so let's get started here. All right, so everybody should see the green screen, right, and it has the Finance tab on it. So, Bethany, can everybody see that?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So we're going to get started. All right, so today's goals. So obviously we're going to kind of go over what our Council Troop Finance procedures are and where you can find the resources for that. We'll kind of do a step-by-step training of the new Finance tab in the Volunteer Toolkit, and we'll talk about some key dates. There are not a lot of dates as it relates to this, but just some dates that you should be mindful of. Okay, so one of our financial reporting procedures are troops are required to submit a financial report in the V2K by June 15th. For those of you who have been around for a couple of years, you know that we used to do a troop budget. So essentially this has taken the place of that paper form that is your troop budget, and now you're going to be submitting your information into the V2K. Okay, and that information needs to be in by June 15th of next year. So we'll talk a little bit more about how you update that information and as we go on through the process. So the other thing, the annual report covers your financial transactions that took place between October, right, so the start of the new year, all the way until September of the final year. We know that it's kind of weird for that. We know that most people don't do a lot of stuff during the summer, but it does kind of give you an opportunity to put that stuff in as well, or what your plans are for the summer. So troops who were established during the year should obviously, you know, report that information from your start date. So if you, you know, if you just start now and you didn't start quite at October 1, then you should put the information in from now. The other thing is we want to make sure that people understand is the reports will be viewed by our council finance department and the membership team, right, to ensure you know, all policies and procedures are, you know, being followed appropriately. So that's always been. We just kind of wanted to highlight that and make sure that people are aware of it. Okay. The next thing, any questions as before we kind of get into the meat of this presentation? Bethany?
Nothing so far.
Okay, so how do you access the Volunteer Toolkit? So you go to My GS, right, which is on our website. So you go to www.gsle.org, click on the My GS, and it's actually going to give you a drop-down menu. Click on the Volunteer Toolkit. Once you actually get into it, you'll see the screen here. Then you'll see the Volunteer Toolkit, and then you're going to see My Troop come up, year plan, meeting plan across the top. But what you're going to click on is the Finance tab. So this is a new tab. And we'll be live. We'll make it live right after this presentation, so you can go in and start kind of playing around. So you'll click on the Finance tab, and this is actually what's going to show up, right? So you'll start to see your annual troop finance report. This is obviously from a demo screen, so this is a PowerPoint, so it will have the updated information on it, right? So once you get into the Volunteer Toolkit in the Finance tab, you'll see a hyperlink, which is going to be on the side. And what that information is, this is really just a place where you can put, as a council, we can put notes and resources for you. The biggest thing that we're putting there now is going to be Chapter 5 Volunteer Essentials. And what that is pretty much it gives you our outline or our procedures as it relates to managing troop finances. So that's the information that you'll find in that space. Okay? So let's kind of start getting to income. So you're adding information in. So you can do this as the year goes on, right? So you only submit this one time. So this is something that, as it relates to Volunteer Toolkit, for those of you who don't know, anything that you do on the Volunteer Toolkit, the parents can see, right? So this is an opportunity for your parents, your troop leaders, your other parts of your troop leadership team to put information in, and that it allows a lot of transparency so everyone will be able to see. So you go in and you enter any of your income, your annual income as it relates to any of these income categories. If you have, you could just pretty much just click into it, hit tab, and you'll go to the next thing. For council details, there's going to be a little green icon. If we felt like it was a need for us to explain exactly what that income item is, then you can click on the council detail screen and a little pop-up will come up with an explanation as it relates to that. If you wanted to do anything as it relates to income or add any notes into the system about, you know, collected troop dues or, you know, cookie income or anything like that, parent donations, any types of things like that, you can put your notes into the system. I want you to be mindful of this as well. The only people that can see your notes are council. So parents can't actually see their notes. They can see your, you know, how much you took in for troop dues or annual family giving or anything like that, but they will not be able to see your notes. So those are actually just for council and you as a record keeping item for yourself. So just be mindful of that. So once you do that, you click on the note screen and you'll be able to put information there. Keep in mind it's only a 250 character limit, which you can put a pretty good amount of information in there, but just be mindful of that. You can also add an attachment. So if there's anything that you want to attach here, you will be able to do that as well. So just keep that in mind. So let's look at some of our income categories. Now these are specific for what you're going to see once you log into the Girl Scouts Louisiana East income categories on our finance tab. So we have our GSUSA membership dues. You know, those are $25 for all, you know, for girls and adults. Everything is pretty on here is pretty much self-explanatory. Any of your proceeds that if you participated in the fall program or cookie sales, or if you as a trooper, you know, charged, you know, troop dues or anything like that. If you've taken in any money for annual family giving, you can put that information there as well. Other income, if you were doing any type of fundraising as a troop that is approved by council, obviously, but if that would information would go there. And like I said, you can also put a note as to what you were doing and how what's included in your other income category. Cash on hand is obviously if you took over a troop or you started the year with a certain amount of money, you want to put that information in there as well. So any questions about income categories while I feel like this is a good place to stop.
No questions.
No questions. All right, cool. So we'll keep going. All right, so same thing for expenses. Pretty much the same concept. You're able to put that information in the system. You still have your council details as it relates to expenses. The other thing I want to point out is the update. So anytime that it auto updates, the system auto updates. So anytime you kind of go to the next tab or the next line item, it'll automatically update, and it'll show you that. You see it on the right-hand side is expense last update, and it'll give you a timestamp of that. And it'll also say who's in the system. For those of you who are on a troop leadership team, right, and it's 2 of you, be mindful of that because it'll say who actually updated it, because both of you as direct primaries who are working with girls will have access to the system. So maybe you need to delegate and say, hey, if my troop treasurer is going to be that person who's going to do that, you're going to handle the finances, you're going to be the one that's doing all of the entering. Just make sure you communicate that information. As I said before, you can put troop notes as it relates to your expenses and put that information there for council or for you as a note for you to understand. Here's our income category. I'm sorry, our expense categories. Pretty much this is pretty much self-explanatory too. A couple of things I just want to kind of make notice of. A lot of people don't know about this Juliet Lowe fund. This is pretty much a fund that was started because Juliet Lowe, if you don't know, she really loved to travel and obviously making new friends and all those other types of things. So this fund was established to support girls in that. So if you don't know, you can find out more information about this particular fund in Volunteer Essentials and just type in Juliet Lowe Friendship Fund and you'll be able to find out tons of information about it as well. The other thing is program materials and supplies. Those are pretty self-explanatory. So anything that you're purchasing, as it relates to troop meetings and things like that, you can put those in expense columns. Ceremonies are going to be your bridging ceremonies or any types of things like that. Outings, activities. If you guys are, planning little trips or field trips and things like that, you can put those in that area. If you're doing any camping, troop camping, if you have community campouts that your girls are attending, you have the option to put that information there. Take action projects. The big thing about take action projects is this is not necessarily a community service. It's supposed to be a sustainable project, obviously. So you just kind of be mindful of that. You can look up what take action projects are and how that you can kind of distinguish between the two. Awards and gifts. You'll have any of their badges and things like that. Summer program, if that's something that you guys are looking into doing. Annual family giving. Pretty much self-explanatory. Leader reimbursements. So this is important. So if you're in this store and you don't have the troop debit card or checking account or something like that, and you make a purchase and the troop has to reimburse you, you will put that information under leader reimbursements. So that's a new one that was not previously on our budget sheet. So just be mindful of that. Cost of unsold product. If this probably would only relate to cookies. So if you had any unsold product that you could not sell, you want to put that information there so that parents are aware and it's pretty transparent. Other is just for any other type of thing that is not necessarily expense that is on this list, and just be mindful to put any notes in the notation section of this. So any questions about anything before we move on, Bethany?
We're good to go.
All right, perfect. So again, like I said, this is your notes section. You can also make sure that that you can put any attachments or anything like that, supporting documentation. Again, parents will not be able to see that information, only council, so be mindful. All right, so once everything is in, you put your financial information, your income and expenses in, you will have a financial summary, and it will pretty much give you a breakdown, how you started out, income minus expenses, and your ending balance. The thing I want to point out here is that for our council, if there's an ending balance of over 500, then you need to put in what your troop plans to do with that particular money and things like that. So to do that, you'll see this add a note on troops financial summary, and it's pretty self-explanatory. It opens up just as the other note sections do, and you can put in any information in there. If you want to put any supporting documentation there, you'll also be able to do that. Really pretty easy, but just want to kind of reiterate, anything over $500 that is left in your bank account, you need to explain that to, or say, hey, this is what we're intending to do with that money. Okay. All right. The other thing is going to be bank information. So you can put your bank, the branch name, where you kind of typically go, and then the last four of your bank account information. It does not allow you to put all of that information in. There's some talk about enhancements as it relates to that down the line. So just want you to kind of be mindful of that. And this is a good way for us to make sure that when we're reviewing that information after the cookie program and all that stuff, that we kind of have the right information going forward. You're also able to add signers. So if there are a few signers on your troop checking account, then you can go ahead and add a signer. If you, for some reason, you have two banks, you can do that as well. Do that too, which most of the time you can only have one bank account. So, but it does give you that option. If you want to remove a signer, right? So if at some point throughout the year somebody came on and then they left, you can also go in and remove a signer just by clicking the X button next to that person's name, and that person will be removed. So, any questions about banking or anything like that?
No.
So, are y'all listening, or am I just explaining this really good? I hope it's the latter. Okay. So, the other thing is going to be your council notes section, where we ask the status of where you intend to go next year. So if you intend to return next year, or you're merging with another troop, or disbanding, or if you're not really sure, then you can put that information here. And this is right at the end when you're ready to submit. You can answer this question. You don't have to answer it right now. During the year, you can just kind of at the end of the year before you submit your financial report to the council, you'll be able to do that. You'll put your, this says troop service unit, but we call them community, so you'll have your community name. So if you're, Kenner, then your 408 community, this the Kenner name, and then 408 is your number. So you'll put that information in this box as well. So this is a really good tool. We're really excited about this. This kind of gives us an idea of who's returning and who's disbanding and who's not sure, and what we maybe need to do to help move you along and say, hey, what's going on. So we're really excited about this particular feature on the Volunteer Toolkit. All right, so there are also going to be two questions, and I'll show you just a hint of how our site will look. But these are council, it's called council notes, but there are two questions that we pretty much ask and one of the questions is, how would you rate your experience this year? So, if there's anything that we could do better, or, that we felt like you really needed us to know, then you can put your response in that box. So you click the box and it'll open up just as any other box. You have a 250 character limit, so just be mindful of that. But you can also put any documentation. So say, for instance, you had a really great experience and you want to tell us all about it, then you can add a Word document in there as well. So the other question that we ask, and this is how many community service hours do you do? We don't know if you wanted to add a list of where you went, you can do that, but it's only specifically asking, total hours, how many community service hours have you guys done as a troop? So pretty much those two questions are required, so you'll be required to put something in that space. So just be mindful of that. As we evolve with this and we maybe start asking different questions, some of them may or may not be required, but you'll know which ones are required when there's obviously the red required button. So any questions about that, Bethany?
No questions. You're doing a great job.
Okay, well, thanks. Thank you. All right, so here is the time. So this is, at the end of at the end of, the year, and things are kind of winding down, and you've put all of your information in. And I want to be mindful that this is additive. You can put information in as it goes, and so it's a running total, right? It's not something that you put in one time. It's a running total. So you can put in, I spent $10 this month on ceremonies or anything like that. You can always put that information in and it adds in. So once you get to the end of the year and you put all of your information in and you want to see this report, right? So now it's time for you to preview, right? So it'll give you that option to kind of see what things will look like. So essentially, at any point throughout the process, you're reviewing your information, you can go in and edit it, right? So that's the good thing about this. So we'll just kind of take you through the preview screen so that you'll have an opportunity to see that, but it's pretty self-explanatory. So you'll see, right? This is, my income, expenses, how it looks. It kind of gives you this nice little, you feel like it's really an accounting. I know the accounting department was really excited about this. So it'll have any notes on there as well. So again, I want to be mindful of you to let you know that parents cannot see your notes. Only counsel can do that. They can't see any of your attachments or anything like that as well. So just want you guys to understand that. So this is how your preview mode will look for your income and expenses, your financial summary, right? So if you had anything over $500, then you need to put that explanation there. You'll be able to see that as well. Your bank account information, this is how everything will look. You need to edit that at any point, you can do that as well. And at this point, if you want to change, say, hey, we were not sure, but we're definitely going to be returning this year, you'll have the opportunity to look at that and make sure that response is correct. So so once everything is done, all right, so this is the last thing. This is everything. It'll say this is the person that's actually sending who's going to be submitting this, right? So the troop information, the date that it's going to be sent. So when you hit the send button, you can't change it anymore. So I just want to make sure that you are aware of that, right? But it will give you an opportunity to opt out, right, before you do that. But once you hit send and you hit submit, you're going to be pretty much confirmed, right? So once you do that, it'll take you to this particular screen, and it wants you to be extremely sure about if you want to submit or not. Now, I want to say this. You will need to attach one document. We asked for one document, and that is going to be your bank account, your statement, right? So this is where you would attach that. That's the only thing that at this current time we're asking troops to submit is your last bank statement and you would attach that here. So once you do that, this is how it'll look. Once you hit the attach button, it'll take you to a file in your computer. You'll go ahead and find that file and select it, hit open and hit select. And then once you do that, it'll show up just like this, right? So this will be everything. I mean, if you wanted to attach other multiple things, you can, but only thing that we're requiring at this time is your final bank statement. Once you hit yes, I'll submit now, you'll get this screen. And it's going to say, hey, all of your items were submitted to the council. If you want, hit OK. These are the documents that were attached to that. All right, so this will be a pop-up that comes up. On the other hand, at the end, you'll know everything is done because it'll say thank you, right? So thank you for submitting this. These are your documents. It was sent on this date with the timestamp by whom, right? And it'll have your community information and the number, right? So it'll also give you some instructions. So if you're like, man, I forgot to do something, as I said before, once you submit, you won't be able to make any corrections, but you can contact counsel to assist you in that. And it'll also give you some really good information here that parents can only see troop income, expenses, and the financial summary data, right? So they don't see any of your bank account information, no notes or anything like that, so you can be assured that that's true. And then on the flip side, this is what the council will receive, right? So we will receive, there's nothing you need to do. This automatically, the system automatically generates this. So this is going to be your report in an Excel format for us, and any supporting documentation that you have submitted to us. So that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a really great system. It takes a lot of the paperwork out, and it allows everyone to have visibility into the system. So any questions before I give you a short preview of how ours is going to look?
Will you be able to archive the reports to compare to previous years?
Great question. Yes. So just as in with the Volunteer Toolkit, the year plans and things that you've done, right? You will have the ability to go back next year and see what exactly happened from the previous year. So just as you do with the year plans, you can archive and you'll have availability to see that. You'll do that with the Finance tab. But that's a great question.
You also print the reports.
Yeah, they love you to print. Yeah, absolutely. You can print the report out. Mm-hmm. These are great questions. So, any other questions?
That's it.
All right. So I'm gonna give you a quick. It's because I wanted you to have some time to go back. I'm going to show you just so you can kind of get an expectation of what this is going to look like from your perspective. Hold on. So this is our screen. Bethany, tell me, can you see the switch up?
Yes.
All right. So obviously it hasn't been published yet, but this is what you'll see. This is our council report. As I said to you before, you'll see Chapter 5, the Managing True Finances. This is going to be a link. It's going to take you directly to our website. This is our income information and the details that we kind of posted here, so you'll be able to see that. This is how your screen is essentially going to look with our information in it. Like I said, I won't go over it too in depth, but here's an opportunity for you to see what we have in the system as it relates to us. We have, the information about leader reimbursements, the financial summary, and the question that it's asking you to answer. It does say if the balance exceeds 500, so you'll see that. Bank account information. If you wanted to add another bank, you're returning. Your status questions here, community name and number. It does separate them, which is really good. That was not a feature in the pilot last year, so from feedback we realized that we need to do that. It's not required. If you don't know the name of your service unit or your community, it's cool, so you don't have to worry about that. Here are the two questions, right? How would you rate your troop experience this year, and how many community service hours has your troop completed within this membership year? That's what we're asking for. So it's asking me as the administrator of this to publish. I'm not going to do that yet, not until we get off of the phone. But pretty much that is our system. So do we have any other questions? Now is the time. No. Okay. So as I said, this webinar will be recorded, right? I'm going to we're going to do another webinar. This is a monthly series that we're doing on December 12th at noon. And this is going to be all about some programming that's coming up, and gearing up for the cookies and a lot more. So this is going to be more program related and gearing up for cookies and things like that. So I'll leave you with the poll, because I want to make sure that if you found this webinar to be helpful, and be honest here. So let me know. And if not, if you if you have any feedback or things that you feel like we need to be talking about, send me an email, and so that you'll be able to we'll be able to kind of meet your expectations as it relates to this. So take that poll. You remember you'll get your recording at the end of the webinar, and we hope to see you on the next Lunch and Learn on December 12th. And thank you so much for your time. We only use about 30 minutes of your lunch, so you should have some opportunity to get something to eat. So thanks again for all that you do.